in defense of stack and tilt. I have a good friend named Andy Plummer. His partner is Mike Bennett. They have made famous the swing pattern called stack and tilt. From folks that don't understand what they're talking about, I have heard, you have heard, a lot of very serious criticism in a way that is just maddening, to be quite honest. I don't understand it. Let me tell you why you might like stack and tilt. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Do you think it's a good idea to be able to predict your ball flight? Well, what they're talking about is making the ball flight laws out of the ball flight lies. Now, what's that mean? Well, when Andy and I were younger, Mike and my teacher and all that good stuff, everybody taught, because it was understood that the ball flight laws work like this. The ball takes off in the direction of the path and curves in the direction of the face. It's not accurate. I just did another video on the ball flight laws that clears that up. I'm not going to go into that, but they're talking about the club dictates the face, dictates takeoff direction, and the difference between the path and face dictates curve. You can't argue with that. Second thing, do you think it's a good idea to hit the golf ball first or the ground first? Of course. Of course. What they're talking about now, when you set up, a good little idea is to get the notion that if my weight is more forward, I can hit the ground more forward. That's not so bad, right? Now, I personally, before I ever met Andy, did a real fast 2.5-hour study just with me only, but making sure I could do something different. So I'm using the tailor-made Nat T system, the full head-to-toe gear, and I'm trying to find out just how important weight shift is to the speed of my swing. So I did swings that were fully left-sided the whole way through. I did swings, as I teach, that are centered, and then the weight goes forward without much, if any, shift to the backswing. And I did swings that were shifting from both sides with a full shift. Guess what? No change in club head speed, identical club head speed. And that makes me think, it didn't matter how hard I tried, but I couldn't alter the club head speed. You can only swing a club as fast as you can, you can only push a thing as fast as you can run, like Homer Kelly said. That's what I found out. But my contact, when I went shifting back both sides, my contact went nuts. That's a basic, right? If you want to hit the ball first, it works a lot better not to get stuck on your back foot. Hence, Mike and Andy stack and tilt, set up with the weight about 55% forward, and it doesn't go backwards at all. Okay, I like that one. How about this one? Do you think it's a good idea to hit the ball from the inside? Again, when you think about the essence of stack and tilt, you start to go, makes a lot of sense. So here's a question. You know that this is coming from the inside, and this is coming from the outside. Well, do you think it's easier to hit from the inside with your hands back here in the backswing? Or do you think it's easier if your hands are up here? Once again, that kind of goes without saying, folks. The more you lift your hands up, the more you have to loop them back down to get the club back down from the inside. So they're making it easier to hit from the inside. We go back like this. We get our hands down as our weight goes even more forward. If you do that, you cannot avoid hitting from the inside. Like my 4-year-old daughter says, get it? Now, it's true that you could get up to the top of your backswing, and you could shift your hips, drop your right shoulder backwards and your head backwards, and I'm getting inside. I am. Standing up like this. There's guys on tour doing that. I'm not saying it's an easy way. I would not recommend it. It's not the only way, but it's an easier way to hit the ball from the inside. Got that? That's why having the ball more back in your stance, people can hit from the inside when the ball's behind their foot much more easily. Why? Because their body's in front of the ball. Hence the weight forward. Makes a lot of sense to me. Okay? How about head still? Now, come on. Jack Nicklaus. Jack Ralph holding his head of hair. When the head moves around the golf swing, what we have is chaos, to use a word that Andy uses. Now, what they're teaching about the body movement is, in order for your head to stay still, as you turn back, your shoulders have to turn in what's called a rotated shoulder turn. Meaning, if I'm bent over this way, my shoulders should stay perpendicular to my spine. Watch this. If my shoulder comes, that's a flat shoulder turn, my head just moved up. I'm going to have a heck of a time getting down to the golf ball, right? So, a rotated shoulder turn is part one of being able to keep your head still. Now, at address, I'm flexed forward. I'm bent over forward. And I might finish with what's called extension. So I have flexion and extension. Okay? And of course I have turning. That's an easy one. And I have side bend. That's a side bend. And that's a side bend. Those are the motions of the body in a golf swing. Now those babies have to be combined in order to keep your head still. So as I go back, I have forward flexion that's turning into side bend right there. Now if I stay forward flexed, look what happens. I'm over here. Okay? So I have to come out of my forward flex into side bend and even a little bit of extension of the spine this way to keep my head still. When I come back down, I'm back to forward flex again. Now to keep my head where it is. Now if my head moves forward from here, the ball's going right, folks. So if I get my hips out of the way, if I get my hips out of the way, my shoulder can come down. If I don't get my hips out of the way, I got no down for my shoulder. I can't keep my shoulders in that rotated shoulder plane. It has to come up. Okay? So the hips get out of the way so my shoulder can come down, and look, I'm back again in side bend and a little bit of extension. That's how the body has to move. Not how it can, that's how it has to move in order to keep the head still in the center of the golf swing. That's not so hard, folks. It's real hard to argue with this stuff. Now I got one last thing for you. Well, do you think it's better to have a nice big shoulder turn or a very short shoulder turn? No brainer, right? Hard to argue. Well, see this right foot, right knee, right hip? These guys regulate how much the shoulders can turn. Okay? If I keep my right knee bent and I do the old X factor, that's good for you. Okay, and I try to resist my turn with my hips. Look what I got. That's all I got, folks. I'm killing myself. That's it. But if I let my right leg straighten and my hips turn, oh my goodness, look how much more I can turn around. That's hard to argue with. It's real hard to argue with. So, here's what I say. You're going to see a lot of people start adding stack and tilt information to their instruction. I guarantee that. You're not going to see them give the boys credit. I will. So, Andy and Mike are teaching me a lot. They're teaching the world of golf a lot. Let's give them a break. Let's don't try to prove them wrong. Let's see what we can at very least learn from it. I promise you, you play better golf. I promise. Thank you very much. Hit them great.